All right, let's check in on the 5 plants that we have growing with organic inputs in the 4x8 grow tent. Before I crack open the tent, I want to show you the controller, what conditions we have going on right now. So it's 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Typically this has been going in between 80 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit, 69% relative humidity right now, and a 1.1 kPa. The plants are in the veg stage right now. I've typically been aiming for about 0.8 to 1.0 kPa. It's been around there, but now I'm about to actually flip over the flower stage, aiming more towards 1.2 to 1.5 kPa. So I'm okay with that, where that's at right now. Big shout out to AC Infinity. Now that we're on the topic here, I've got the controller, I use their tent, I use their humidifier, their oscillating fans. They have a whole bunch of good equipment to use. And they actually hook up my viewers with a discount code. You can use code MrGrowIt15. That code works on both Amazon as well as their website. I'll have a link down in the description section below so you can easily access it. And also want to give a shout out to my cameraman. Welcome back. We took a little bit of break here. Actually, I got married, I had a honeymoon. I have a 1-year-old, just very busy schedule. So I didn't have him here. So I've just been kind of doing behind the camera videos recently. A lot of folks had mentioned that they dig this style video here where I actually have a cameraman pointing at me and then I'm showing the plants. So we're back at it. Hopefully we'll be consistent with this format moving forward. And yeah, welcome back, dude. Okay, so I've got the tent open. Let me take a seat and put on my glasses so I don't get blinded by the light here. All different genetics in here, 5 different plants. And I decided to keep them somewhat smaller this time around. They're on day 60 of the veg stage. And I'm actually gonna be flipping a flower tomorrow. Will be the first day of 12-12 light cycle. Decided to keep them a little bit smaller this time around, a little bit more manageable. I have another tent where I have plants wall to wall. I am maximizing that grow space. This one, I'm just kind of making it a little bit easier. Plants are looking great so far. Like I mentioned, all different genetics in here. We've got a Bruce Banner number 3 right here by Dark Horse Genetics, Lemon Mandarin by 420 Fast Buds. We've got No Joke by Chad Westport. Over there, we've got Nerds Rope S1. This is by Elevate Seeds. And we've got Hulk's Breakfast by ICANN Seeds. Good variety of genetics in here. I know a lot of you have been asking in the comment section for an update on these since I think it was over a month ago now that I actually had an update on these plants. They were much smaller last time you guys saw them. They're in 10-gallon living soil fabric pots. These are the ones that have the liner on the inside. So you can see this liner comes all the way down to, I believe, this part right here. And then these 3 inches, 4 inches, whatever that is all fabric. So you get that aeration in there without drying out all the sides like you typically would in a fabric pot. And that's helpful when growing organic. These plants are all being grown organically, with organic inputs, I should say, or all natural inputs. And this soil, for those who've been following the channel, this is the soil I've been reusing. This is the 7th run in this same soil. And what I've been doing for this particular grow is I amended initially with Craft Blend by Build-A-Soil. So I did 1 initial amending, 1 cup per plant. And another thing I did between grows was I added in some additional aeration. I added in some lava rock and some rice hulls. A lot of people like rice hulls because of the additional aeration, but also because it'll break down slowly and it'll add a little bit of silica to the medium as well. And of course, the lava rock is good for really as microbe habitat is another thing that you really call it out for, is because it's very porous. It's heavy, so it definitely did make these containers a little bit heavier, but I think it's gonna add that aeration and add that microbe habitat that's gonna help make this soil better. Now in the past, I was using Kiss Organics Nutrient Pack. I've used that in the past. I've used their Bloom Booster in the past. Worm castings is often added in here. So there's been a lot of different inputs added over the past 6 grow cycles. This time around, since I'm flipping over to flower, I'm gonna use the Kiss Organics Bloom Booster. I have it right here. So it's a 286 Bloom Booster. Now in the past, I've used Build-A-Soil Craft Blend throughout the entire grow and had pretty good results. However, one thing I've noticed is that when I use just the Craft Blend throughout the entire grow, I don't really get as good of a fade towards the end of flowering like I normally would. And I believe it's because it's a little bit higher in nitrogen. So in flowering, I'm looking to back off the nitrogen and increase the phosphorus and potassium. 2 is the nitrogen, 8 is the phosphorus, and the 6 is the potassium. So it's a little bit higher in the phosphorus and potassium, which is good for the flowering stage. So I'm gonna actually do a top dressing here in probably tomorrow is what I'll do, day 1. And this calls for, looking at the suggestions here, 1/2 cup per 5-gallon pot. So I'll do 1 cup per 10-gallon pot in here. Now look to do another amending about 30 days in, and I might not even need to do that amending in. So I'll evaluate at that time and see if I need to do another amending or not. But there's been a lot of nutrition in this medium over the past 6 grows. And really I've been finding I've been putting less and less inputs as the grows have gone on. So that's a plus, right? That's a real plus. It makes things a lot easier for me. Now in regards to watering, this is something that I had automatic watering going in here, but I took it out. I had the Blue Mat drippers in there, the 9-inch drippers. You guys have seen me use that in the past. So I put those in, I had them all nice and calibrated. And then I added in those drip rings. And I actually have a whole setup video on my channel about those drip rings. But I did the installation about 4 days, 3 or 4 days before I was leaving for a long weekend. And what I found is 3 or 4 days while I was trying to dial those in, it wasn't actually releasing the water in the pots as I expected it to. I don't know if the drip rings were clogged or like what happened there, but I ended up just taking those out, leaving the regular Blue Mat drippers in there, and I actually just took out the Blue Mat drippers yesterday in order to take these plants out of the tent, give them a nice training, lollipopping. I cut back the cover crop, and then I put them back in there. That's one thing about this. I don't have access to the back of the tent here, unfortunately, so I'm forced, if I want to do any type of work in these plants in the back, whether it be lollipopping, cutting back the cover crop, defoliation, it's really difficult to kind of get back in there and reach. Now the plants are smaller now, so it's not as difficult as it would be if we had larger plants, but it was much easier for me to remove the Blue Mat system, take out each plant individually, do some lollipopping, a little bit of defoliation, want to get in there to do a little bit more, re-put these back in here. Now I do have the EcoWit moisture meters. I have one sensor in each of the containers, so I'm able to get a grasp of what the moisture content in the medium is. Really like using the moisture meters. I'm gonna bust open the app right now so I can see what we've got in here for moisture percentage. It's about ranging different, about 10% difference between the pots, I should say. So we got Bruce Springer number 3 is at 36%. We got the Lemon Mandarin at 34%, Nerds Rope at 33%. Then it drops down a little bit. We've got the Hulk's Breakfast in the back, that's at 29%, and then 26% on the No Joke. So the No Joke might need a little bit of a watering now. It looks like it might be drooping down a little bit, but having this moisture meter definitely gives me a general idea of when I need to water. It makes things so much easier rather than your typical sticking your finger in the top of the medium, seeing if it's dry or not, maybe lifting the pot. These are heavier pots, a lot of soil in these pots. So having these moisture meters definitely gives me a better grasp of when to water. Now I did have a cover crop in here. It didn't actually grow as well as it has in the past. There's been kind of patches where it didn't grow, but that's okay. It grew up pretty well. Then I cut it back to the chop and drop technique. So I cut the cover crop down and put it down on the top of the medium. And this is gonna help kind of act as a mulch layer to where it's gonna retain some of the moisture in the medium. And also this will break down eventually and microbes will cycle them into nutrients that are gonna be, the plant's gonna be able to uptake. So doing the chop and drop technique, I remember back 10 years ago, they're like, don't have any leaves on the top of the medium. It's bad, it attracts pests and so on and so forth. And then you come to find out that organic style is to do things like this, chop and drop, add mulch layers, have something on the top of the medium so it's not so bare. Anyways, chop dropped, everything is looking pretty good there. As far as lighting, we're using the Grandmaster LEDs. This is the Tarantula Borg Evolution. This is a spectrum tuning light. And one thing I've got to be very transparent up front is this is a pain in the neck to install. I just want to warn you right off the bat. I know some people have been surprised when they're setting it up that it's just so big and heavy. I mean, this is a driver right here. It's massive. It goes all the way down the top of the light. It actually comes in its own separate box. I've got 4 different rope hangers here. It's difficult for me to kind of grab the back. And anyways, if you can get past the rough setup, I guess you can say, of this light, you have the ability to do spectrum tuning, which is what a lot of people are going after, especially the folks that are doing commercially. So right now I have it on 100% cool white, which is the manufacturer's recommendation. So if we look at actually right here, this chart, we can see in the veg stage, 100% cool white. Now I do have it dimmed down, so the center of the canopy is getting about 600 ppfd. And I'm gonna ramp that up as we're into flowering. 600, 700, 800, 900 ppfd is probably what I'll top off at. But 100% cool white in veg. Now that I'm going into flower, I'm gonna be transitioning over to 100% cool white, 100% warm white, and then dim down to the desired ppfd. And then leave this spectrum until the stretch is over. After the stretch, warm white 100%, deep red 25%, far red 30%. Then it goes into the final weeks of flower. So 3 weeks of flower left, switch to a warm white 100%, cool white 100%, far red 15%. 2 weeks of flower left, warm white 50%, cool white 100%. And then the final week of flower, it's asking for cool white 100%. So I thought this was pretty interesting. I've never had a light like this that you should adjust the spectrum in order to get its full benefits as much as it shows here. But definitely gonna go by the manufacturer recommendation. Grandmaster LEDs, a big shout out to Thomas over there. Had a great conversation with him on my Garden Talk podcast. He went over spectrum tuning in detail. So if you missed that, I highly recommend you check that one out. As far as plant training, I did top the plant. I believe I topped the plant, if I remember correctly. Topped each plant at its 5th node. Then just kind of did some training with my hands in order to widen the plant a little bit. I'm gonna get in there, like I mentioned before, I'm gonna do some more defoliation. I lollipopped the other day, so we're nice and clean at the bottom third, bottom quarter of the plant. And during this stretch phase, I expect more growth, of course, vertical growth. Might have to clean up the lowers a little bit more, lollipopping, defoliation. Things are getting thick in here, so pulling off some of these leaves to make sure that air can get through the canopy is going to be very beneficial. One thing that I don't do enough, but I'll do this time around, is promote my book. So if anybody is interested in learning how to grow organically, I wrote a beginner to intermediate guide on growing cannabis organically. It's on Amazon as well as my website. My website's mrgrowit.com. Feel free to check it out. It's an easy read, but it gives you a ton of information on how to get started growing organically. It also gets into some of the intermediate stuff. So if you want to learn how to grow organically, get the basics down, feel free to pick that up. Thank you so much. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover in this video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this time around, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.